Hi, I'm Roderick Givens, Managing Member and Founder of RainierView Advisors, simplifying the complex for our clients. And this is a message for bookkeepers, CPAs, some people who do tax prep work, and then obviously tax attorneys. And the concept is that you have about 10 more days before life gets a little crazy at the beginning of the year. But inevitably next year you're going to get into conversations of people are as wealthy as they have ever been. Stock market is at an all-time high. Real estate is booming, especially in the Seattle metro area. And they're going to ask questions regarding how do I do a better job of protecting my wealth? What are some of the ideas when it comes to investments? And in that conversation, it leads into investment advice. And you really have three main ways that you can address it. First is obviously you have a securities license and you have that in your business model and you address it. Pretty straightforward. The second one is that you have you want to refer them to people, but then you want to make sure that it's the right fit. And I wanted to kind of address that and making sure that that fits within the way that you work with your clients. And then the third is if you don't know where to go, you unfortunately leave that conversation you don't have a recommendation and you leave the clients to their own vices. And I wanted to highlight maybe an opportunity for you to become a resource partner for the clients that you work for. So obviously the first one is if you have that in your practice, you would be able to address that according to your certifications licensing. The second one is if you work with a current, let's say, financial advisor. One thing to keep in mind is that you want to make sure that the recommendations are in line with your business. Now, most people who work in the field of taxes typically take the viewpoint that you're acting in the client's best interests. And that is what most of us view as a fiduciary, acting in a fiduciary capacity. And you want to make sure that your recommendation also has that same level of care for their clients. And obviously the DOL came out with some rulings. It does apply to a lot of retirement accounts, but I think it still applies to basically all recommendations that are applied. And for those who hold the CFP or Certified Financial Planning designation, embedded in that certification is a code of ethics which they adhere to, basically doing what's best for the client in their best interest. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The second is having a comprehensive viewpoint of solutions for clients and not just focusing on the investments. And that's another thing that separates the typical financial advisor, which is giving the investment advice. And then there's the Certified Financial Planner, which is addressing the overall picture, and that includes risk management. It includes conversations incorporating tax management, investment management. It comes with the components of understanding the income, the flow of cash in and out of the household or even a business, a balance sheet, obviously, and then obviously the goals that are out in the future, whether it's retirement, whether it's education for the kids, education for adults, which is a big thing now, or a second property or funding a business, incorporating that. And then obviously within that could be a 401k or what have you. And then finally, some of the legal aspects that are embedded in that, including lending, which is obviously something that people want to incorporate into their conversation. So having a holistic approach, having a comprehensive approach is appropriate. Again, CFP designation helps you identify great referrals. The third is when you say, okay, you know what? It starts to lend into the conversation of investments. I don't have the capability of giving or the comfort level of giving investment advice. And in that case, you just let that conversation drop. And in that case, you probably have left the clients to their own vices. And I would say, just from a business practice management, you have an opportunity to refer them to someone who is going to refer them, at least address their problem, but also if they are unable to address it, refer them to the right resources. So the concern obviously is that the advice would not work out and then come back to you. I understand that. I think having someone who acts in a fiduciary capacity addresses that. I also think that having a process in which you address things, and having the understanding the nuances of a client's balance sheet and income statement, really, I think, deepens the understanding of the situation. And then obviously having the experience helps. So along with the CFP, as a word of note, a CIMA, which is a designation you would get from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton, is another designation that is not just something that you can test through. You actually have to go to a class. You have to have experience. There's several layers of are required for that certification. So the takeaway from this is that you will probably get into, again, because things are really good, is that how do I make better investment decisions, and how do you address that as that conversation bleeds from tax to investments? How do you address it? Again, if you have the capacity, address it. If you have someone you're referring to, make sure they operate in the fiduciary capacity and they have a comprehensive approach. And then if you don't have a referral, one is to look for firms that have a CFP, certified financial planner, and then obviously if it does work out that you would like more information from RainierView Advisors, we would welcome that conversation. So again, Roderick Givens, RainierView Advisors, simplifying the complex.